Okay, this is the Aphex Twin tutorial for how to make the song Flim in Ableton. First, let me play the song you'll be able to make after watching this tutorial. As you hear, it sounds much like the original, and it has nothing to do with effects. I just used a little reverb on the synth. It has to do with real analog drum sounds that I painstakingly recorded myself. I created the lead and many of the drum sounds from scratch using Tempest. Now you probably have thousands of sounds in Ableton and VSTs that you'll never use. But if you download my sample pack, which has every drum sound and synth sound that we're going to use in this video, you'll be able to complete this tutorial with me and learn a lot about Aphex Twin production methods, and also has some sounds that you'll actually use. So let's get started. Okay, so in my first audio track here, you see all of the sounds from the sample pack. You have the Aphex flute, Aphex strings, 3 types of bass drums, cymbal, 2 hi-hats, and a snare. Okay, the first step, we'll create the Aphex flute instrument. You want to right-click and slice to new MIDI track, and you want to go 1 slice per transient using the built-in slicing preset. Alright, now we have a playable instrument. Select that instrument and hit Command D and duplicate it. Now we have 2 Aphex flute instruments. One of them will be used for the bass chords, and one of them will be used for the lead. Alright, one of the Aphex flute instruments I've labeled Aphex Flute Short, and I've put the sustain at -27. And one of the Aphex flutes, the one used for the chords, I've just left it alone. To each of the Aphex flute instruments, add a reverb, and you can see what my settings are right here. Turn off the low cut, high cut, and all that stuff in the chorus, and just use a simple reverb, and put that on each Aphex flute instrument. Okay, I've recorded the first melody line, and let's listen to that. And I've recorded the first set of chord progressions. And let's hear them together. Okay, I've recorded the second melody line. This clip I made 8 measure. Alright, and here's what the second set of chords look like. Alright, here's what those sound like together. Okay, I've recorded the third verse, the melody line, and I've made this 10 measures because there's a little transition part in there. So let me solo out the melody line for you. And let me solo out the chords. Now let's play verse 3 together. Okay, now we need to create the Aphex string instrument. So over here from the sample pack on Aphex string, you want to right click, slice the new MIDI, and we encounter a problem. It says it's going to result in 513 slices. So sometimes Ableton can't recognize that each one of these is a separate instrument sound, and I'll show you how to fix that. Okay, you want to delete that first warp marker, so this will come onto your keyboard on C. You want to pull that over all the way over. So this is the first warp marker. Then just double click before every transient. Then you want to slice it to new MIDI track using warp markers and the built-in slicing preset. Okay, you want to put a reverb on your Aphex string and just copy the settings that I have here. I've recorded the string melody line. Here's what it sounds like. If you go down here and click envelope, volume, and I put a little volume envelope on that violin so it would fade out. And here's what it sounds like with the melody and the chords of the Aphex flute. Okay, the next step, you will pull in a drum rack and set up your samples the way I have down here. Bass drum 2 will have a volume of 0, and I've EQ'd it a little bit like this. Bass drum 3, I also EQ'd it just a little bit. Snare drum 1, and label that GH for ghost snare. This is going to be a really quiet snare. Make that -12. Cymbal volume, make it -6. Snare 1 is a little louder, around 3. And then we have another quiet snare, make that -12. Closed hi-hat at 0, and open hi-hat at 0. Now on your snares and hi-hats and things, be sure to turn the release all the way up so that each time you hit the key, it will release. Okay, I've recorded the first drum pattern, and this is what it sounds like. Now you'll notice right here in the middle I've used the ghost snare, the one we turned down at a really low volume. And you'll notice that these hits don't line up with the grid. And that's because you need to right click and select triplet grid for the ghost snares. Okay, now I've recorded the second pattern, and it's a lot like the first. I've added some triplet hits here at the end. So let's hear what that sounds like. And I've added a volume envelope over the triplet grids at the end to make the volume increase. All right, now I've recorded the third pattern. Let's hear what that sounds like. Okay, I've recorded the fourth pattern, and notice down here that it has 5 measures length. Because the verse was 10, it will repeat twice. Here's what that one sounds like. And you will note that right here I put those hi-hats, closed hi-hats on the triplet grid again. Okay, now we'll need to create a sub instrument to play those low subs that are all throughout the song. and that's what's really missing. So grab a sampler and drag it into Ableton, and you will go to your sample pack, get BD1 sub over here, drag it down in. Okay, then you want to turn the volume up to 12 dB. Okay, I've recorded the first sub pattern, and here's what all that sounds like together. Okay, here's the second sub pattern in context. And here's the next sub pattern. Okay, then what you want to do so that you can play the song is to group together your flutes by shift clicking. Select group tracks. And you want to group together your sub and drum rack. And if you still have your sample pack over here in this audio track, you can just mute that track. Alright, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial on how to create Aphex Twin Flim. And I'll be recreating more of his songs in the very near future.